goosebumps every time, yeah, 713. Through the 281, yeah, I'm riding. Why they on me? I'm flying, sipping low-key. I'm sipping low-key and honest, flying right up. I get those goosebumps every time. I'm around, yeah. I'm hard to make everything feel fine. Worry about the sun.
Yeah, the duties with Bear and Premier. Newcastle United.
I get those goosebumps every time. I need the hype, throw that to the side. I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. When you're not around, throw that to the side. I get those goosebumps every time.
Up the mugs. Yes, sir.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Loaded Mag NFC. We're back again with another fully loaded transfer show. It's a Sunday special. You've not seen us in a while, so we thought we'd come back and have a conversation about Newcastle United. And I have to say, really, really quickly, before I ask you boys how you are, I think I might have, did I star it? I don't think I did, but I'm going to go right to the top because I think the Clon lad put a comment in. Yes, he did. Let me just go to it. Just here. He put, this should be renamed the Fully Loaded No Transfer Show. And look, I just wanted to address that. Look, we love talking Newcastle United. The people in the chat right now love talking Newcastle United, whether a transfer is coming in or not. There is speculation, there is news, and we are going to talk about it. And we enjoy doing it. So this is why we are here, people. And look, with everything that's going on in the world right now, we need to talk about something that we love, something that we're passionate about. And Newcastle United is that. So let's do something positive and talk about something that we love and we care. And we'll start with you, Daz. How are you on this fine Sunday evening?
No, I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, nice weekend. But yeah, you're right. A lot of negativity of things in the world, in the news. There always is, obviously, but there's even more than normal. But yeah, let's bring it back to football and talk about football. You said we love these transfer shows, and we do. But I get sick of them because we haven't got a transfer over the last number of transfer windows. So like we just want something to cling on to, and it's why we do these shows. It's the build up to when we do actually make a signing. But no, it's coming. We're definitely going to have signings. It's just you get these frustrations as well because we started off with the unknown, I suppose, with we'll get into it a bit here now, but with Mitchell and how what's been cooking for the last year, and then it was Mitchell out the door, then it was Eddie Howe. It's all Premier League based players. Now that's kind of question marks over that. Now are we back into European based players again, or a mix, or what's going to happen? So I suppose it's still keeping us guessing, if nothing else. Just like something solid now and get at least one player over the line. But how are you, Chris? He's thinking about it.
He's thinking, is he really thinking, or is he just gone and frozen?
He's still thinking.
Reloaded. There he is.
My back.
I do.
Sorry. I'm all right, mate. I'm all right. Nice weekend. Went out with my mate yesterday evening, which was nice. Nice to catch up with him. He's a red. So obviously there was lots of Isaac talk, as you can imagine. But I've put him in his place. I've told him the score. But no, really nice weekend, and yeah, been looking forward to coming on here. And I think Daz summed it up very nicely there. You know, talking about the transfers, and do you know what? I think our view or perspective has been skew-whiffed a little bit, in the sense that obviously we had that first transfer window, didn't we, at the beginning of June? I think it was the 1st to the 10th of June for the Club World Cup. And what we've got to keep telling ourselves now, the 22nd of June. So it's been open for 6 days.
You're good, Chris.
Keep going. Keep going. Keep rolling. Keep rolling. I think it might be a few seconds. I think it might be a few seconds behind.
Am I back?
You're back. You're back.
Am I back? Sorry, I don't know what's going on with the internet. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
You can hear me, brilliant. Yeah, I don't know where I come up to, but anyway, I was essentially saying that we're 6 days into this transfer window. It's still very raw, still very new, and I do believe. And Pete, it sounds like you were on a similar track to me. Obviously, I heard your voice note yesterday. I think we're going to start to see movement at the back end of next week. That's when I firmly believe we're going to start hearing something. And I actually think that we're going to make a move next week. Even if it's just one player. Oh, you can't hear me. That's good. Even if it's just one player, I do think we'll make a move at the back end of next week. Obviously, I don't know that, so nobody, hang your hat on that. But that's just a feeling I've got. And then once July comes as well, obviously new financial periods, I think we'll start to see movement pretty quickly. So I'm trying to stay upbeat, boys. I'm trying to stay upbeat. But Pete, how are you doing, mate? How was your weekend?
Yeah, great weekend. Great weekend. Lots of family involvements, lots of family things, keeping us very busy. Been hot, humid, and horrible. It's kind of cooled down a little bit at this moment in time. Let's hope that continues. But yeah, been a great weekend. And look, we are going to sign players. I'll put that out right at the top of the show. Newcastle United are going to sign players. We can all be frustrated, and we all are frustrated that we haven't yet seen a player come through the door, but they will. And as Chris, you've just said, I feel exactly the same. We've both said it. I do believe we will start to see movement. I think we'll start to see movement this week, in my opinion. It might not be done this week, but I think we'll start to see movement on players this week in anticipation of July the 1st. And let's not forget, June the 30th, there's PSR issues for other clubs.
Yeah.
And Newcastle United will be sniffing around. We're not guaranteed to go and do business, but we have the money to do it if a player presents itself. And so don't be surprised if that business doesn't start to get moving as well. So I think this could be an interesting week. Certainly the back end of the week, if you're a Newcastle United fan. And look, let's just stay positive. We're going to get the players that we need. We're going to be ready to have a Champions League tilt next season, along with 3 other competitions. We will be absolutely fine. I'm confident on it. And just before we go any further, Daz, I think you might have put the image in, so I'll throw it up now. The nominations are now live. We are put forward for the Football Content Awards 2025. Thank you to all of those that have already nominated Loaded Mag NUFC for this award. If you haven't already, we will have the link somewhere in the descriptions, in the chat, and if you've checked social media, it is on there as well. If you feel that you would like to nominate us for those awards, that would mean the absolute world to us. So thank you in advance, and yeah, please consider nominating us for the Football Content Awards 20.
That's a good idea, Pete. Put it in the description of the show. I wish I thought of that. So I'll do that going forward.
we could get it in there, but we can get it in the chat and on social media. It's already out there. We've all tweeted it out. It's there. So go check it out. And it's got the link there where we can do the nominations. So don't worry about that one. So all the housekeeping stuff is up and running. Let's start with some conversation around transfers. Now, I said to you boys before we started, I was going to get your just quick opinions on the fixtures for next season, because we didn't get the chance to, because unfortunately Pete Graves wasn't able to make the show. Send his apologies. He will be back very, very soon. Boys, the fixtures are in. Very small on there, won't be able to see them. But what we do know is this is our opening fixture on TNT Sport. Aston Villa away, first game of the season. Boys, any standouts, anything that kind of takes your interest on the fixtures that have come out last week on Wednesday? Yes.
can barely remember them now, but yeah, I know we played Villa first, and we played Liverpool at home then after that. So 2 tough games to start us off with. Also around Christmas time, we played 2 away games, and I noticed as well because I've been working ahead. I've been putting in order for our match reviews, getting them all lined up for 1, 2, 3. As they come. We play. I think we played Burnley twice in December, which is a bit unusual, just the way the end of one run and started into the next. So, yeah, look at we have to play everyone anyway. But when you dot in the Champions League fixtures in there as well, of course, there'll be a Champions League fixture before we play the first game at the Stadium Light against Sunderland, which is interesting as well. But yeah, for us then as well, it's deciding where we're going to have our loaded meetup, and we haven't been talking face to face, but we've been talking in our WhatsApp group, right? But yeah, interesting times ahead. I think add a few silence into the mix as well, and we'll start to get excited. And of course, this is another preseason friendly at St. James's Park was announced as well. With Espanyol was just announced there a couple of days ago, so that was interesting the way that happened as well. So they're playing on the Friday and the Saturday now. But only one of them is in the Sella Cup, classed as the Sella Cup, I believe, and the other one is just a normal friendly. So, but yeah, lots to look forward to.
Chris, any of those fixtures stand out to you? Daz has already talked about the fact that the first few are difficult fixtures. Villa away, Liverpool at home, Leeds away. Any one of those or any sections of that fixture list kind of stand out to you in a good way, bad way? What are your thoughts, mate?
Well, I always do the same. I always obviously look for the first game of the season. I always look for some reason. I always look for the Boxing Day fixture, which weirdly this year there is no Boxing Day fixture. So that disappointed me a little bit because I do enjoy my sport on Boxing Day. I think I've said to you boys, haven't I? I always tell the kids, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day is your day. Boxing Day is my day. That's what I always tell the kids. But yeah, well, obviously Boxing Day will still be good, obviously. But yeah, no football on that day, which is a shame. And then also, I look for when we play Liverpool. I look for when we play Everton for obvious reasons. And interestingly, this year, for the first time in many years, I was looking to see when we played Sunderland. And ironically, we play Sunderland on my birthday, away from home in December. So that'll be an interesting game. But yeah, do you know the thing that stood out for me most about this set of fixtures is normally you tend to group it in months, don't you? And you go, oh, March looks like a really good month, or December looks like a decent month. But they all feel quite spread out to me. Now, I don't know whether that's because the league's just becoming stronger in terms of, there isn't really any easy fixtures. You don't tend to look now and think, oh, well, that's a guaranteed 3 points, because most of the games are difficult, aren't they? But they all felt quite spread out to me, because when I was looking through them, I'd be like, okay, yeah, well, we've got a good chance of getting maximum points there. And then I go, ooh, but then we've got that one. There was no month particularly that I look at and think, oh, maximum points on offer there, or we should be getting maximum points. I'm hoping we do put a good run together, and I'm sure, we are more than capable of doing it. But normally you see the odd month, don't you? And you go, oh, that month's going to be brilliant for us. But they all feel quite spread out this season. I don't know whether you boys picked up on that or whether you noticed that, but yeah, there's no 1 month I look at and think, oh, well, that's a good month. That's a good month for Newcastle, because there seems to be all different, different levels of difficulty.
Yeah, I know you'll have your standard, like, who are going to be very, very difficult to take on, but form as well comes into play. It's not until it gets up and running. Like no one would have predicted Fulham would be in such a good run for the early start of the season. And Bournemouth, sort of our bogey team as well, half their team's gone now, or on the way out the door, so that they're going to be a different proposition. So it's too early yet. Just leave it there in the corner for when you need to analyze it.
Yeah, you just don't know how teams are going to play performances wise. For me, you look at maybe the back end of the season. You think the run-ins more favourable than previous. But all in all, I think it is quite spread out. I think there are tough games in every month that we're playing. But look, every game is going to be a tough game. We're fighting on 4 fronts. It is what it is when you're Newcastle United now, when you're playing in the Champions League, and we've got that to add to the fact that we've got our fixtures in the Premier League. And it then brings us back to the fact that we're talking about transfers, because we need a squad that is big enough to cope with 4 fronts this season. Now, to start off, and we can see that there is a Forest raid in the chat. Welcome all those from Nottingham Forest. We are going to talk about a different player before we get on to maybe a Nottingham Forest player to talk about, and we will be coming onto that very, very soon. But I wanted to talk about Alexander Isak, and wanted to get our thoughts on this, because, you know, lots of people on social media, mostly Liverpool fans, have been getting very animated, very excited, already celebrating the signing of Alexander Isak. A little bit like what Arsenal did last summer and mostly of this last season. And it's been a bit of an up and down situation of what is actually going on. So we'll do a little bit of a storyboard run through. So we had Ben Jacobs mentioning, to get it all up and running, the fact that he mentioned that Liverpool aren't yet giving up on the Alexander Isak situation. It then spiraled into the Standard Sport writing a report saying Liverpool are ready to smash their British transfer record twice after signing Wirtz to get Isak as their dream signing, even mentioning the fact that they will pay beyond the 150 million. We had a Newcastle perspective. So Luke Edwards came out and he did warn us initially that we would get this kind of talk this summer around Alexander Isak, and he gave the truth behind it. He, in his opinion, believes that Newcastle United won't sell, and actually mentioned that, you know, it would take a fee of up to 200 million for Newcastle to consider a conversation around that. What we then got is a Fabrizio Romano response, because he hadn't yet said anything. We've got nothing from Ornstein, and that's what the Liverpool fans were clambering for. They were desperate for that Ornstein bomber. It didn't come, but it says that Liverpool would try and go for Alexander Isak if he became available. But at the moment, Fabrizio Romano, doesn't have that feeling. The club, too, from what he's hearing, sees it is very, very difficult, and a very, very difficult deal to be done. Boys, you would have seen all the Liverpool accounts. You would have seen all the things on social media. What do you make of this situation around Alexander Isak and Liverpool? Are you worried? Are you relaxed? Are you calm? Are you somewhere in the middle? Daz, tell me how you're feeling.
Well, like we battled this discussion right through the season with Arsenal, and we were not giving it to Arsenal. So yes, we should hand over Isak to Liverpool for what? Just because, you know, they're the champions. We should bend the knee to Liverpool, because we're only a tiny club. They're such a massive club across the world. And why bother? Why bother competing? Pack it all up. Bullshit. This whole story is bullshit. Isak is going nowhere. As I said it before, right through the season, he was never going to Arsenal. He's not going to Liverpool. We do need him to sign the contract this summer, though, or else next season, next summer, we will probably be looking for, not looking, but we will listen to offers, and there will still be of that amount, let's say. But if he wants to stay in Newcastle, commit long term, sign that contract in the summer, this summer, and this talk goes away. That's the only way to get this done, and that should be our priority, really, getting Isak to sign. But he's not going to Liverpool. I said it the last day. I said it right through the season. It's not sorry. I, like you, Chris, I've got Liverpool mates onto me as well about what's this about Isak, and you're just going, it's not going to happen. You know, no hope in it. What's the point in us competing, or because we're just going to bend over if we, and give our best players away? So we're not in any kind of PSR trouble, and we don't need to unlock massive PSR to allow us to compete, because by doing that we're shooting ourselves in the foot. So it's not happening for me.
Yeah, just before I come to you, Chris, Forest fans are trying to sabotage the chat, saying that we're all muted and they can't hear us. Hey, Forest fans, don't make us go and buy Murillo and bring him to Newcastle. Don't make us annoy you, because we will do that. We will go and buy your best player just to annoy you. We will get Eddie on the blow and we'll make it happen. So don't start. Don't start. We're going to talk about Forest in just a second. Chris, talk to us about Liverpool. What are you hearing? Are they excited? They already got Isaac on the back of their shirts. What's the situation up in the northwest, mate?
Oh, mate, like they are mega excited, mega excited. Yeah, a few of them, message me daily and say, how do you feel about losing Isaac? How much is it going to cost to get Isaac? Constant chitter chatter. For me, I do you know what? I spoke to you boys about this, didn't I? And I said that I didn't know whether to bring this up on the show or not, but I will. I'll throw it up there because I've been having a few thoughts about Alexander Isak in the last 48, 72 hours. So just to lay me stall out, I love Alexander Isak and I don't want Alexander Isak to go anywhere. But I think it does hinge on this contract, as Daz referred to earlier. I don't know how comfortable I would feel if we approached Alexander Isak and wanted him to sign a new deal, and he said, "No, I'll leave it, thanks." I don't know how I would then feel about that, because I don't want him to get to 2 years left and then us potentially have to take a big cut in what we get for him. And I think it's important as well to make the point, and it sounds cliche, but it is true. Newcastle United is bigger than any one player. And I have to reiterate, I love Alexander Isak and I think he's absolutely superb. I do think he's the best striker in Europe. I really, really do. But I also, on my other hand, I've been thinking about this, and I definitely don't want him to go to Liverpool. That's not, I really, really don't want him to go to Liverpool. It'd just be the worst thing ever. But it just got me thinking, with the money, that some of the cartel six, big six, whatever you want to call them, what they've been throwing around recently. And it just made me think, if we were to sell him, what would be the figure that I would want for him? Now, Luke Edwards mentioned, didn't he, about 200 million, and I think we'd be very, very fortunate to get him for 200 million for him. I don't think we would, but the minimum fee, as I've been saying to all my red mates, the minimum fee is 150. We won't go below 150. And then I started, and this is what I wanted to ask you boys, because we love playing devil's advocate on here. If we were to be offered, if Chelsea were to come in, and I'm using Chelsea because Chelsea seem to just throw money around willy-nilly, don't they? But if Chelsea were to come in with 170 million bid for Alexander Isak, and Alexander Isak had made it clear to Newcastle that he wasn't going to sign a new deal, would you think, putting yourself in the seats or in the heads of the owners, in the heads of Eddie Howe, if a fee came in of 170 million for Alexander Isak and he's told you he's not signing a new deal, what are your thoughts on that?
So, what was the question again? Sorry, I wasn't listening to you, or Chris.
Oh, sorry. Go on, Pete.
Look, if Chelsea came in, as you said, as a scenario, 170 million, and Isak said he wasn't signing a new contract, what I would do is I would say, okay, give us this season, score 25 plus goals, and then we'll let you go for another fee in the summer. That's what I would do.
That's fair.
However, and this is what I think Newcastle United are going to do, in my opinion. I need to put this out there very clearly. And I've said it to you boys before. I've said it on the channel. People that regularly watch will know. I don't see Alexander Isak here in 3-4 years' time. I just don't.
I don't.
His trajectory, and people have already said it before, his trajectory of where he's going is going faster than what Newcastle United's growth is. He's become one of the best strikers in the world. We have done amazingly well to keep hold of him for as long as we have. I think we get at least another year out of him. However, I do think next summer, regardless of him signing a contract or not, we will be back here having this same conversation again. I genuinely believe that.
Yeah.
So going back to the point, I would be saying, regardless of who puts the money in this summer, stay. And there's a reason why I'm saying this. Even if a 200 million bid came in, I'd be saying stay. Play this season. Go score his 25 plus goals. And then in the summer, if we're not where we need to be, because let's be honest, there's still a capacity where we have a great season and we're where we need to be, and Alexander Isak wants to stay, and we've got the capacity to keep him. Like we're kind of forgetting that, and that's really important. However, if we're not, you go and play abroad. You go to Barcelona. You go to PSG. You don't go to somewhere in England. We are in a position where Newcastle United are finally, after 15 odd years of Mike Ashley, 14 years, whatever it was, it's a blur now, thank God. We are now fighting with the top teams in the Premier League. You don't sell your best player to the Premier League. I don't care how much money they offer. I don't care if it's 200 million. I don't care if they offer 200 million and a team in Europe are offering 130, 140. I'm taking the less money. I'm taking the less money to ensure that he does not play against us in the Premier League. That's my priority right there. Is if Alexander Isak has to leave, he goes abroad. Tottenham did it with Harry Kane. Dug in. They made it difficult. And when they eventually let him go, they let him go to somewhere in Europe. That's what we need to do if we have that same situation where we lose Alexander Isak, if that comes about. But for me, no sum of money this summer can part me from Alexander Isak. And that needs to be the club's mentality right now. No money parts Alexander Isak with Newcastle United. The reason being is because how are we going to replace him? Who are we going to replace him with? Have Newcastle even done their due diligence on a replacement right now? Probably not, because they have no intentions of letting him go. So what we're then doing is risking our season. Alexander Isak is a big part of his being successful next season. To let him go, that massively throws everything up in the air. In what our most important summer for transition? Nah. Not a chance. The priority is Alexander Isak stays at this club. Alexander Isak will not push for a move. He will not put a transfer request in. He will not cause an issue to try and get out of this club. He is too respectable of a guy. He wants the best for his career, as every other top player does, but he's too respectable of a guy. We'll have that conversation next summer down the line. Newcastle United will offer him a new contract. Whether he signs it or not is completely up to him. But for me, he needs to be playing for Newcastle United this season. As simple as that, mate. So to answer your question, 170 million from Chelsea, not a chance. Liverpool, not a chance. Man City, not a chance. Arsenal, he ain't going there anyway. But regardless of that, we don't accept and we go with Isak next season. That's my mentality of Alexander Isak, and that's what we need to do.
This is the shame piece, because I agree with everything you've said, and this is the shame because in a non-PSR world, this isn't a conversation, because I do firmly believe we'd be able to keep Alexander Isak no problem, because you mentioned earlier about a trajectory. Our trajectory would be far quicker. We'd be far ahead of where we are now if we weren't in the PSR world. I suppose the reason I threw this out as a topic of conversation is, and let's be clear, under no circumstances do I want him to go to Liverpool. Under no circumstances. The reason I use Chelsea is because I kind of feel like Chelsea would pay the money, and also for some reason, maybe it's the bias because I'm from Liverpool. I don't know, but I wouldn't be as bothered if he joined Chelsea, purely because joining Chelsea doesn't guarantee success. Like I wouldn't be too nervous over him going there. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because, you know, we've had Alexander Isak for a number of time now. We've paid 63 million for him. In terms of in a PSR world, a sale of Alexander Isak of say 170. I keep saying 170. I'm not saying that's a guaranteed fee, but it's good. That's basically a Grealish to us. You know, that's Aston Villa selling Jack Grealish for 100 million and pulling in 100 million worth for Alexander Isak at 170. It would probably equate to about 120 million. And in PSR terms,
sorry, Chris. Sorry, I can't take any more. I can't take any more.
That would be 500-600 million to spend. That's what it would be.
No.
I know you're going to lose them further down the line. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I get what you're saying.
You've got to shut this down, boys. You've got to shut this down. For my Liverpool friends, they asked me the question, what is it going to take for Liverpool to get Alexander Isak? I said, impossible. Not even Tom Cruise could make this deal. Shut it down, walk away. Go do something else. That's exactly what I said.
I like it.
Can't read it, but that's exactly what I said. Shut it down, move on. So don't even talk about it anymore, lads. Move on.
Yeah, we wanted to touch on it because it's been such a topical conversation, and because we haven't had a show for a while, we just wanted to cover it and just have that brief conversation. But look, it is what it is. For me, he's not going to Liverpool this summer. He's not leaving Newcastle United this summer. And in addition to that, what's really interesting is since Fabrizio Romano said his quotes about it being a very, very difficult deal to be done, all of a sudden there's been a calm of silence from Liverpool. Nothing's really been said. And actually, two things are popped up, which is what I wanted to end on. All of a sudden, Liverpool World are now reporting on Julian Alvarez as an alternative to Alexander Isak, as an option that they're looking to target. And not just him, there are others as well. Hugo Ekitike now is another player that is being linked with Liverpool again, all of a sudden. Because, boys, as we know, and as we found out with Arsenal, is that it's all pie in the sky. Nobody's had talks. As for all the reports has been said, Fabrizio Romano said it as well. There's been no talks club to club. There's been no talks agent to club. There's been no talks player to manager or player to player. He hasn't had any conversations with Virgil van Dijk as what's been talked about. It's all nonsense. It's all Liverpool accounts creating nonsense and people jumping on it. Nothing's been said, nothing's been done, and nothing will be done. It's as simple as that. And as Daz said, let's move on. So let's talk about some transfers that are more realistic, let's say, this summer. And we've got a few Forest fans in, so we will jump a little bit to that section. We'll talk about their boy Alanga, whether he'll be wearing the black and white of Newcastle. He certainly looks better in black and white than he does in red, that's for sure. But anyway, let's talk about this one because there's been a few links, and this was the initial report way back when, a few weeks ago now. But interestingly, boys, I want to get your opinion on this. There was a report out this morning around interest of Anthony Alanga and potentially Harvey Barnes as part of a make-way shift or trade, should we say. So there's that conversation there. But I have to say, I want to get your thoughts on this because, Anthony Alanga has been very, very active with Newcastle United players. And it's not necessarily about the picture. Obviously, the Newcastle shirt in the picture, he's not wearing it. He's wearing a Bournemouth shirt, I think, with Semenyo on the back, which is equally strange. But it's the interaction that he's having with all Newcastle players. You've got Sven Botman responding, Anthony Gordon responding, Will Asula responding on the back of it. But equally to their Instagram posts, Anthony Alanga is constantly in their comments. And this wasn't normal because it never happened before. So two things, boys. Is there something going on with Anthony Alanga? I know there's been reports and links. Do you think there's something going on in the background regarding Anthony Alanga and Newcastle United? Is this stuff on social media, Instagram, telling sign that there's something going on? So those two things there. And then the third thing, is Harvey Barnes in this conversation as well? Three things there. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I know you called the Alanga deal a smokescreen the last time we were on, Pete. I do think there's something in this for sure. It's been going on for so long that now the kind of admiration for Alanga and the bid in January or wherever it was, I can't remember when it was before. And yeah, this it would be two separate transactions, of course. If with Harvey Barnes, if Forest are interested in Harvey Barnes. It's something that we could think about. We said in our squad game we'd like to keep Harvey Barnes because he knows how to put the ball in the back of the net. Totally different player than Gordon, of course. But then we imagine then we would look for someone else to complement Gordon as well and help him out on that left wing. But it's not beyond the realms of possibility. I don't know how accurate or how realistic it is from that article there. I don't know how it wouldn't be a trusted one for me, but interesting. Is what I say about it. I think I know the Forest fans will be demanding big bucks for Elanga, and we need to find a way. And you owe us after selling us that dodgy keeper anyway, Audi. So we can let's make it happen.
We did them a favor. Chris, any truth for you for what you've seen there with regards to Anthony Elanga? Obviously, it ramped up a few weeks ago. It's all gone really, really quiet, but then he's still chipping away on this social media. Do you think there's anything in that? Or do you think that's just kind of people jumping on things for the sake of it? You know, how do you see it? And do you think he's the right winger that Newcastle United are going for?
Do you know what? It's an interesting question, isn't it? I think there is interest in Anthony Elanga because let's be honest, we know that Newcastle did try and get Anthony Elanga not that long ago. I wonder whether the Harvey Barnes thing is someone putting 2 and 2 together. I mean, it makes sense. You know, if Forest were to lose a winger, albeit they play on separate sides, but we know Barnes can play on the right if needed. It does make sense, particularly as, again, hate to keep referring to it, but in this PSR world that we are in, it's certainly a deal that makes sense because if Forest were to go to us, we want 60 million for Elanga, we go, okay, well, in that case, we want 45 million for Harvey Barnes. That then, you can do the two deals alongside each other, but separate. It helps their books, it helps our books. Anthony Elanga gets what he wants, and Harvey Barnes gets first team football. So it does work for both clubs. It wouldn't surprise me at all, to be honest, to see a deal like that, because it helps both clubs out financially. Hopefully, there's not going to be any more players like Vlachodimos coming the other way. Although, maybe we will do a deal with another club in order to try and get Vlachodimos off the books. But who knows? And this is where this 30th of June soft deadline transfer window comes in, because somebody like Odysseus Vlachodimos is going to be a player that we go, okay, well, we'll buy this player off you, but you've got to buy Odysseus Vlachodimos off us. It could be used to use the chess expression that we've used for this show. He could be our pawn. The player that we end up moving on as part of another deal. I try not to take too much notice of the social media train, because I think that a lot of players do socialize in little groups, little circles. So it's no surprise to me, that the Newcastle players are commenting on Anthony Elanga, because obviously Anthony Elanga is quite close with Alexander Isak and recently Will Asula. So, if they're all hanging around in same circles, they're all probably going to know each other. And let's not forget, boys, we had a similar type circus with James Maddison, didn't we? When James Maddison, every time he tweeted something, all Newcastle players were liking it, and there was little exchanges going on, and we saw pictures of Callum Wilson talking to James Maddison while they were away on England duty and all stuff like that. So I try not to pay too much attention, and I still do think you could be spot on, Pete, in that it could be a bit of a smoke screen. But what I'm trying to say is I could see it happening. I could see it happening, because I do think Newcastle will need to offload a few players, before the season starts. And I do think Harvey Barnes could be one of them that is offloaded. And the advantage of having someone like Harvey Barnes, from our perspective as the sellers, is the fact that he's actually a player who's had decent numbers. He had a good season last season. So he's actually a player who would raise a fair bit of money. He's not like a Sean Longstaff, where potentially we're just trying to get as much money as we can, but he hasn't really played much football. Harvey Barnes has proved in the Premier League he will get you goals and assists. So if you're trying to sell him to another club, you're going to get a decent fee for him, and it wouldn't be that much harder to sell because he's a really, really good player. So I could see it. Whether or not it will happen, I don't know. I'm still skeptical.
I'm sorry, boys. I'm calling bullshit on this. I don't see it. I just don't see us going for Anthony Elanga. I don't. I just don't. I know we've been linked with him. I think he may have been on the list. I just don't see it. I don't see us outlaying the sort of money that Forest would want for him. I don't think he'd be worth it personally, and I just don't see it happening. I really don't.
Pete, if we pay the say we paid the inflated price of 60 million, but then we inflate Barnes's fee, does that then make it a bit more palatable? Because let's be honest, if we were to sell Harvey Barnes, I think we'd be lucky to get like 45 million for them. But in an inflated PSR world, would that warm you up to it a little bit?
Well, Harvey Barnes barely playing any minutes, got close to just as many goal contributions as Anthony Elanga did. And he barely played any minutes, like in terms of in respect to Anthony Elanga. So you say 45 million is kind of like a fee that you wouldn't get for him. But you look at the wingers market this summer. Yeah, and Bremo, apparently Man United are going back in with another bid for 65 plus, going into the 70 millions for him. You know, they're wanting close to 60 odd million for Anthony Elanga. There's Semenyo that's been
70
valued at 70 million. Like Harvey Barnes at 45 with 15 goal contributions or something like that this season. For me, I think that's a good price. That's probably the value that he is. It's more than what we paid for him, and he came to us with a higher goal contribution than what he's got right now. But the wingers market's quite high. Hey, don't you start, or we're going to get Yilmaz instead of you, right? Don't you start, because I know you want him, right? We're going to get onto Yilmaz in a second. Don't make us sign him. Don't make us sign him, Wolfie, and annoy you, okay? Because you know we will. But yeah, for me,
that means Chelsea are going to make a bid. If we're looking
he's not in the chat, is he? Todd's
always in the chat.
Todd's always here.
God,
Todd's waiting.
Okay,
you know what, lads? I think Chelsea should just sack their scouting network and just fucking hire us, because Todd's getting all these ideas from us.
Yeah, he actually is. Don't make us sign him. Stop calling us out, and then we may let you have him. But we're going to get to that in just a second. I just think that with the wingers market at the moment, I think the values are massively inflated. So I don't think it's out of the realms of possibility that you get something like 45 million for Harvey Barnes with his goal scoring ability. He's a better natural finisher than Anthony Elanga. He might not have that pace and that directness, but he's got the technique and the quality that maybe Anthony Elanga lacks. But yeah, for me, I'd much rather keep Harvey Barnes. I think if there's a fee big enough for Harvey Barnes, I think he does potentially go this summer. But I don't think that fee will come in personally, so I think he stays. And I just don't think we're going for Anthony Elanga. I just think there's another player out there, or players out there that Newcastle United are looking at. That's just kind of my opinion. I'm sticking to that opinion now. I'm seeing too much noise. As people have said to us, you know, when we do shows and people are saying there's too much noise around a player to make it
too noisy.
It's too noisy, as you just said, Chris. Yeah. And that's kind of how I see the Anthony Elanga situation. It's too noisy to make me think that there's anything real within this. But there is another report on Harvey Barnes potentially, in that kind of potential Elanga movement as what's been talked about. So we'll wait to see on that one. But a player that we could sign and we've been interested in before is Baris Alpar Yilmaz of Galatasaray. Huge account. Tabla.com has reported that Newcastle are very much interested in Yilmaz, around 30 million euros. Technically gifted left winger, also can play right winger, also pops up in the number 10, can play across the front line. Talented player. It's not the first time, boys, we've seen a link with Yilmaz. It's coming from a source outside of England, though. Does that mean anything to you? Do you feel like it's a load of rubbish, or are you kind of keeping that on the back burner? How do you see this Yilmaz link that's kind of popped up in the last 24 hours or so, Daz?
I don't know. I kind of ran out of steam a bit on the links. I've been following them all still, but it just we've talked about this ladder before in depth in previous fully loaded transfer windows. But yeah, he's 25 years old. He's just gone 25. The Turkish international. When we looked at him that time, we were impressed with him. So, but I think I'm taking everything with a bit of a pinch of salt. I think in this lead up in this next week, I think it'll be someone more domestic that we'd go for, someone that's in this PSR, put in a bit of PSR trouble. Like maybe we'll talk about that in a few minutes, I'm sure. But this one, it's a nice option to have, a nice one to consider. But I think we're going to hear a lot of these now as we get into start of July.
Just before I come to you, Chris, I'm going to just put this on the screen. Got 430 in the chat and only 152 likes. Come on. You know what Sophie B's like. She wants those likes. We thank you for coming and joining us and watching us. Get your questions in for us in the chat. We are going to have a question section later on in the show. So look out for that one. But click that like. It only takes a second, but it means the world to us. Thank you very much for tuning in tonight on this Sunday evening. Thank you, Sophie, for always pushing the likes as well. Chris, Yilmaz, I know you mentioned before that you liked him as a player. Would you like him enough for him to be your right wing signing this summer? What's your thoughts?
That's a good question, that. I really like Yilmaz because we've looked at him previously, and I think at the time I mentioned that I liked his tenacity. His tenacity and his attitude and his work rate reminded me a little bit of Carlos Tevez. Someone who just doesn't let anything go, and he's just constantly pushing, pressing. Looks like a player who works really, really hard, who technically is very good. Would I like him as my right winger? I'd like to add him to the squad, but I don't necessarily believe he's an out-and-out right winger. Or should I say, I know he can play right wing, but he wouldn't be the right winger for me. But I would like to add him to the squad, if that makes sense, because I think he's a player who could pop up in various positions, like we've said. He'd certainly be a really good option off the bench. And I think he'd be a player who could step in and, come on a sub or, playing some of the cup games and stuff like that. So I would like him, and I think as well. I think you mentioned a fee there, Pete, of what, 30 million euros, which is like what, 26 million. Like that's a really good fee, isn't it, for a player who's what, 25, 26? Really, really good fee, and I think I think he would be a really good addition. But for me, he would be more of a squad filler than maybe an out and out right winger, which is what we need. I would still like us to bring in a top right winger who will command the first team spot ahead of Jacob Murphy. That's what I think we need.
Yeah, I think that's fair. He's not a specialist right winger. He almost seems to me to be the rung in like up from like a Harvey Barnes or a Gordon. They play there, but they don't necessarily play there well. Gordon and Barnes. Yilmaz for me is the next level up because he can play there and play there pretty well, but it's not his specialist position, if that makes sense. Like he can play there, but it's not where he naturally plays. He's naturally a left winger. And I think I like him. You know why I like Yilmaz is because he's direct. He gets the ball and he runs at players. He likes to run and take on players, and he likes to get that ball into the box. And I kind of feel like whatever right winger we get next season or this summer into next season, we have to have that directness about them because that's what Isak's fed off. If you think about Murphy this season, he's just been direct and he's just whipped balls into the box, and Isak's been feeding off that and scoring goals. We need that directness from that wing. We don't quite get it from Gordon. Gordon's very much a cut inside and shoot type winger. So we need someone that's going to feed him on that right hand side. And I think Yilmaz could do that, but he's not a specialist there. So I do understand it. I mean, if we did get him in, he is versatile. He can offer something different. He has got Champions League and European experience. And that's really, really important for us going into this season. But yeah, I kind of feel like I'd want a specialist to come in that knows that right and play it really, really well. Some people in the chat and on previous shows that we've done have been very particular. They want a left-footed, one that can cut inside, which I understand to a point. But actually, Murphy being on the right foot on the right wing has actually worked quite well. And I'm kind of torn on whether I'd be happy with that again. I know a left footer will come in inside and offer something different, but I'm purely thinking of service to Isak here. It's not quite the same when you've got that player constantly cutting inside. They don't quite get the striker doesn't quite get the same service as if they're naturally their strongest foot is on the wide side, so they can whip that ball in. So it's an interesting one. He's a good player. Some people have said in the chat, he's not a top player. Yeah, you could probably argue he's not, but that Eddie Howe will get him playing better than he currently is right now at Galatasaray. So there's that in itself. I think it's an interesting link. I think the fee is probably the right type of fee. I think the player has a lot of ticks to his boxes, but again, I think he's one just to add to the list. What we're going to say, Daz, you're going to jump in.
How did you know I was going to say something? I was going to say, if you're looking for an alternative, right, and someone we were linked to about a year ago is Mateus Sule from Roma. He's a high pressing is one of his specialities. Direct free kicks as well. We need a free kick specialist. If you're not going to let Tonali take it, then we need someone that can take a free kick. And he can kind of work back as well. If you remember me saying before about Semenya, he was tracking back, and I like that about him. I think this guy can do a job like that too. But Argentinian, so how is he going to mix with the Brazilians? I don't know. But just someone. His name might pop up again. The other thing I was going to say is there's a super chat in from Tino.
Oh, Tino.
Cheers, Tino. And Tino says PSR is a financial cheat code for the cartel. Mags are priced out of the English Premier League. How using the EPL as a distraction and has some surprising EU gems on his radar.
Ooh.
Watch this space, I think.
And this is where I think we'll bring into a further conversation about what type of players are we targeting. And we did label this show as, Eddie Howe playing a game of chess. Like we're looking at what we're seeing as links right now, and we're thinking we know everything as fans. The reality is we know nothing. We know nothing of what's happened. We saw Sandro Tonali pop up out of nowhere when it was never expected. We saw Alexander Isak get signed within 2 days of Callum Wilson getting injured. Nobody saw that coming at the time in which it did. We've signed players out the blue. Eddie Howe has that capability, and he has the capabilities to do it again. I think it's really important to remember that, going back to the initial conversation, is that we're now fighting in a different kind of situation now. We've got a different ownership, but a different direction in terms of above Eddie Howe. We've got Andy Howe, we've got Steve Nixon at the helm alongside Eddie Howe fighting for players. We know we've been successful with those three at the helm in terms of getting players through the door. It's an exciting time, but there may well be different targets that we are not thinking about. It's interesting as well. There was the Yilmaz and Arda Güler conversation with that. There was a link with Arda Güler today, in fact. I did see that from a Real Madrid site saying that, Real Madrid don't necessarily want to let him go. He doesn't necessarily want to leave Arda Güler, but he's very conscious that if he's not going to get regular minutes, then he might well look elsewhere to get minutes. And it does say in the piece that Newcastle United have already shown their firm interest in signing Arda Güler this summer as a strict loan.
Can I shut that down, Pete? Because I was reading it somewhere else as well that he's getting on really well with Alonso and the good communication, and I don't know, I can't see it unless it's for his development, of course, and he's not going to be first choice, maybe then, but
Look,
I'd love if he did rock up.
It actually says that in the piece, Dash. You're absolutely right. In the piece, it says about their relationship is strong, but it's only if he's not going to be guaranteed regular minutes. As in, I think he wants to be starting. I think like that's what he's pushing for. And so if he doesn't quite get that and he is riding the bench quite a lot, then maybe he will look for a low move. That may be one to have a look at come January. If he has the first half of the season and he's not playing well, he could be a player that you pick up on loan for 6 months in a World Cup year. He might want to need to be playing regular football. It might well be one to come back to. But yeah, look, in reality, he's going to stay at Real Madrid. He is an elite young player. And Real Madrid, to be fair, would be mad to let him go. Can we just squash another one whilst we're here? I've put it up as a topic of conversation. Just let's go through this quickly. Can we squash this and say this is not happening? Can we all are we all in agreement?
No,
this is not happening. No,
hands up, hands up, saying it's not happening.
Not happening.
Wages alone.
Man United accounts are getting really excited. Sorry, Chris, for the where the report comes from, but Man United fans are getting excited, saying, "Yeah, we're going to be shipping him off to Newcastle United." Nah, not a chance. So that's okay, and I'm even going to delete it off the system just so it's no longer there. Boys. Oh my God. We'll lay off the Grow Bailey conversations for another time. Let's just kind of like park them for a second. Boys, I want to come to, you know what? I'm looking at it. We've got some good conversations here, some good links. Let's go to this man, João Pedro. Let's have a quick chat about this man, because there have been, reports of Chelsea being interested, Chelsea showing their interest. As Fabrizio Romano said, they've kind of brought him to the table. Ben Jacobs also talked about it. He actually responded to one of my tweets that I put out in relation to this tweet here, where he actually makes clear that Newcastle United are on the other hand are pushing, and that we are almost kind of we're in active talks for João Pedro, where there is just the discussion stage of whether they are kind of putting him on the list. Ben Jacobs responded to me on the back of that, because I thought what he put out was a positive thing for Newcastle, because everyone in their mind were like, "Oh, Pedro's going Chelsea, it's done." I have to be honest, I was one of them. I thought, "Oh, if Chelsea come in, he's gone. He's going there. He's not coming to Newcastle." So I thought what Ben Jacobs put was a positive thing, in that Newcastle is still at the table. Ben Jacobs thought that he wasn't positive or negative. He was just saying that Chelsea are assessing the situation. They need to get rid of Nkunku, which I think they're finding it difficult to do. Newcastle have made a concrete approach. It has now kind of moved on from that, and it's been reported elsewhere that Newcastle are looking to potentially put a bid in very, very soon and get those talks more advanced. He's saying at this point, Ben Jacobs, that Chelsea's interest isn't advanced as yet as Newcastle United. There is also here from other reports, I think this might be a Brazilian report, that Chelsea and Newcastle will make proposals for João Pedro very, very soon. And that was in the last sort of 24 hours that's been reported. So, look, well, where are you on this João Pedro? We've had like a week to kind of think about this. It's moved on a little bit in that time. Do you still think Newcastle United are ahead of the table for João Pedro? Do you still think he's the primary target for Newcastle United? Are you worried that Chelsea are going to steal him? We've not been able to talk about it. So, Gaz, what are your thoughts?
I suppose you always have to be worried about Chelsea are going to steal, because they stole everyone else that we've in the past that we've been come up with against them, for especially the South American talents, and the worry as well. When this is just Twitter talk as well, but that he fancies staying in London or being closer to London or whatever, which would be with Chelsea, so he wouldn't have as far to move. But no, I think we're still well and truly in the mix for João Pedro, and I hope we still are, because like we wrote off Brian and Bueno, any chance of forgetting him, but no, I think we're still most definitely in the mix, as I think we are with a certain right centre back as well, that we'll talk about, I'm sure. But think one to watch. Someone was always going to jump in as well and provide a bit of competition. But Chelsea are on top of everyone. Like, it's just, if he goes there, he's going to be, his game time is going to be limited, and like he may get big bucks to go there, but it might be it would be a backward step from my point of view. But Chris, what's your thoughts on João Pedro?
I really like João Pedro. I know he's splitting opinion in the chat. I think he's a player who, if he comes in, I think he can only get better at Newcastle United, particularly under Eddie Howe. I think Eddie Howe will make him a better player. The only thing that makes me nervous about the Chelsea links isn't necessarily the fact that it's Chelsea after them, because I think as a player, if he's making purely a football decision, he should pick Newcastle over Chelsea every day of the week. And if he doesn't, I'd rather him go to Chelsea. I don't want him. The only thing that makes me a little bit nervous about Chelsea being in for them is the fact that obviously Chelsea will be waving pound signs at him. And I worry whether, Chelsea go, we'll give you 250 grand a week, and Newcastle just won't do that. That's the only problem. When you have teams like Chelsea involved in the mix, I think it makes it very difficult to get a deal done, because a player, if one club's offering him 120 grand a week and the other one's offering him 250 grand a week, it's going to make it more difficult, because even if he says, well, I want to join Newcastle, but can you make it 180? Can you make it 190? It's just going to make, we're not going to break that wage structure for João Pedro. I actually think the fee might be okay as well in terms of Brighton, because the longer it goes on, I think Brighton just want him off the books. I think they just want him gone. So I'm not too worried over the fee, because I don't think there'll be a host of clubs queuing up for them. Not because he's not a good player, but just because perhaps he's not a player that certain clubs need. The fact that he's only being linked to Newcastle and Chelsea says a lot to me. I don't think there'll be that many clubs in for João Pedro, and of course there'll be some clubs that are looking at it and thinking, a bit like what I said a few months back, in terms of being a bit worried over his his attitude or his mentality. There'll be some clubs who just turn off from that straight away and go, no, don't, he's not the type of player we want to bring in. That wouldn't concern me though, because if Eddie Howe and his team want João Pedro, then clearly a lot of significant background checks will have been done. So I'd have no worries over, João Pedro's conduct when he joins, because I don't think it would be an issue. But yeah, in summary, I'd really like him. But I think with Chelsea hovering around, it just makes the deal harder to do, if I'm honest, unless Chelsea just back off.
The last thing about João Pedro, I suppose, is that with half the Brighton or previous Brighton staff at Chelsea, they're going to know a thing about him as well. Just to know his temperament and kind of behind the scenes things. So, not saying that'll have a factor in him choosing Chelsea over us, but it is a factor, I suppose, to consider.
Yeah, and the fact that Nicholas Jackson has been linked with Aston Villa in recent days makes you think if he goes. I don't know if you boys watched the FIFA World Club Cup and they saw that red card. I didn't watch it live, but I saw it back. Jesus Christ, he is an absolute clown. Because he was a clown for what he did against Sven Botman at the game of St James's Park, and then he does that in the Club World Cup. I think Chelsea will definitely be trying to offload him now, which does, it is a slight worry, because then you could see the Lap and João Pedro potentially dovetailing in the season together. That is a worry. But actually, I think that João Pedro is better suited to Newcastle United. Yeah. Maybe that's just me being biased. I don't know, but I just look at his qualities. I look at what he can offer in game. I think tactically, I think he actually fits Newcastle United better. And I just hope it's not for money and it's for footballing reasons, Because I do think if it's down to footballing reasons, Newcastle United are definitely the better option to sign for. Chelsea are a bigger club, no doubt about it, and they will offer more money. But I would just like him to pick his next team for footballing reasons, and I do think he could pick Newcastle United over Chelsea for that. It's one of those things, but we are ahead of Chelsea at this moment in time. Chelsea's interest is kind of very much at its early stages, and as we get closer to that July, I do think Newcastle United's interest and potentially bids will get stronger. I think the next we hear of this with regards to João Pedro is there's either a deal agreed or there's a deal that's not agreed, or we'll know one way or another. I don't think it'll be interest or stepping up or things are heating up with the João Pedro. We've been through all that. I think the next phase with João Pedro is, okay, we've agreed a deal for João Pedro, or João Pedro has agreed to go to Chelsea or agreed to go elsewhere. I think it'd be one or the other. I think Newcastle fans need that right now. But I still think we're ahead of the table for him. I think we've got a great chance of signing him, and I do think he'll be an excellent player for Newcastle United.
Just to add, Pete, and I was going to mention this in the questions, but I'll say it now based off what you've just said. Like, if we are we're approaching this soft 30th of June deadline, aren't we? Where we're going to, maybe Eddie's hinted at it at the back end of last season about the fact that PSR terms, we're okay for this reporting year, and despite us. I see us doing the majority of our deals in the new financial year, so following the 1st of July, I do still think that there will be a deal that we try to do before the 30th of June deadline. But chances are it probably won't be João Pedro, will it? And the only reason I say that is because Brighton aren't in PSR trouble. So it could be that, delaying the foundations for this João Pedro deal, and we see it get done pretty early July when we're in the new financial year. But what I wanted to ask you boys, and maybe we can come to this a bit later on, but I just wanted to ask you boys which clubs we may be looking to target, and then obviously we can then discuss which players we might be looking to target, because there'll be certain clubs that we're aware of who could be very close to that PSR limit, should we say, for the 30th of June.
So your question is, who from which player and from which club do you think will sign before in the next 7 days?
Well, I think it does sound quite broad, that, doesn't it? But what I mean is, I'm led to believe, or what I've read, is that the likes of Aston Villa, I think Wolves were mentioned, and what was the other club?
Burnley?
Well, oh no, was it Bournemouth? It might have been Bournemouth. Yeah, it could have been Burnley as well. But yeah, I think Bournemouth was one of them.
Burnley definitely.
Yeah,
coming up from the Premier League, they've got some PSR issues.
So sorry, that's one mate.
That's why my answer is James Trafford for this one. I think that could be the deal that gets done before 30th of June, and there's plenty of groundwork done on that one already last year and this summer, if you believe what's been said. So I think that's one that could get done, and unless they sell someone else in the meantime, and they balance the books, and then they go into July and talk about that deal. But I think that's the potential for the one for to be done. The other one I'll throw out there is the whole Aston Villa one and the Jacob Ramsey one. But I think that's if we get a really good deal on that, and they are still stuck. But I know they're trying to offload a few players. Or a few of their players have been shopped around, let's say. So interesting.
It'll just be interesting, won't it, to see if that Kirkes deal gets over the line, because I know Bournemouth have sold Huijsen. Looks like they're going to be selling Kirkes, but it'd be interesting to see if that Kirkes deal gets done before the deadline, because if it doesn't, it could be that Bournemouth need to sell another one as well. Because I thought Kirkes would have been done by now. I thought it would have been done.
Was Zavani? Well, he's having his medical. He's having his medical with Liverpool.
Oh, is he?
Yeah. I think he's. I think that's going to be done in the next sort of 24, 48 hours.
Really? I hadn't seen that. Oh, nice.
I seen something earlier about it that Fabrizio Romano had said something that's been done soon. But,
Right, okay.
let's not forget Zabani. I think PSG are coming in with a second bid for Zabani. Yeah, as Lee Owen said.
Wow.
I think they're going back in with a £55 million bid, or it might be 55 plus for Zabani. So that'll be where the other deal. I don't think any other player leaves after Kirkez and Zabani personally. I think Semenyo stays for another season. I think Kluivert stays. I think all of their players after Kirkez and Zabani leave. I think they'll just improve on the players that they've lost. But for me personally, the only ones I really know of, I mean, Burnley tentatively, but Burnley for me have only got Trafford that is worth taking. For me, Aston Villa is the interesting one. I think I said it to you boys on voice note. I am speaking to Billy in the 12th man chat, and he seems really calm about the situation. But I sort of reminded him that we were also very calm. In fact, at this point in this window this time last year, we didn't even think there was a problem. He knows there's a problem. That's the difference. And like, nothing really started to kick off. Like, remember, the deadline was the Sunday. We didn't hear anything until the Friday before the Sunday. Nothing happened before that. And I think that's really interesting. Is that I think, I'm not necessarily saying Newcastle United are going to exploit anybody, but I think Newcastle United will be absolutely at the table, ready to do so. In those 2 or 3 days before that PSR window shuts, Newcastle have got their money there waiting. So don't be surprised if Newcastle act. For me, I don't want Jacob Ramsey to come to Newcastle United. I don't think. I think, you know, for the money that they potentially want from him, I don't think it's necessarily a massive improvement on what we've got. If I'm going to Aston Villa, realistically, I'm going and taking a Boubacar Kamara, who wants to leave to play Champions League football. I'm going to take him. I'm going to take an Amadou Onana, who's been linked with Saudi. I'm going to take him. Physical, big, strong. If you want a Joe Linton replacement, which has been our problem, boys, let's not. Without Joe Linton, in the next few games, it's been a massive issue. We've missed that physicality. You bring in someone like Boubacar Kamara, who's dual winning, and tackles and recoveries are superb, like it's top level. He is a number 6. That brings in his alternative questions. But for me, and I said realistic, I think everyone would love more. He's still going to be even in a PSR situation, he's still going to be paying 60, 70 plus million to get Morgan Rogers out of Villa, even in a PSR situation, which I still think would. I'm not sure Newcastle United would do, but a realistic fee and a realistic player with players that already want to leave. Boubacar Kamara wants to leave. He's already said he wants to play Champions League football. That's a deal that could be done. Amadou Onana, who's been linked with Saudi Arabia, that's a deal that could be done. And he's a like for like for a Joe Linton, for example. So there's a need for someone like that. That means you can ship off Joe Willock and recoup some of that money and get that back. On top of that, a left field option, you might not agree with it. You're looking for a centre back, 27 years old, Ezri Konsa, England international. You bring him in at right centre back, or he can play right back. You know, you expose Villa, and he's been a regular good performer for Aston Villa. You get someone like that. So there's 3 players that I'd be exploiting for if I'm Newcastle United and we get close to that window and they still need to make sales. Because Billy was adamant. He was like, oh yeah, Coutinho will leave and Luka Dean will get rid of, and we'll get rid of Matty Cash, and we'll get rid of all these. And I said to him, you'll probably get rid of those players, but no club is going to come and take those players from you in a rush before June the 30th. And those players are not going to end your PSR. You need big sales, and a big sale could be Martinez to Man United, which has been heavily linked. Big sale is a Amadou Onana, is a Boubacar Kamara, is a Morgan Rogers if he was available. That's the deal that they need to clear PSR. So
can I Can I throw something back at you? Because it's the chatters are making the same point that I made to you, and I think you made put up a good argument for it. So I want to want the chatters to hear it now as well, because they point towards that he came on a free transfer. He's on 250K a week, but you had a good point back on that. Can I share it?
Yeah, so I mean, look, with Boubacar Kamara, not Boubacar, yeah, sorry, it is Boubacar Kamara. He went on a free transfer to Aston Villa, so naturally, like for example, Lloyd Kelly, when you go on a free transfer, you get sort of bigger wages. You go on bigger wages to that club, but when you're going for a transfer fee, that can be negotiated down. Like Boubacar Kamara won't necessarily stay on, and to be fair, I don't think it is 250 grand a week. I think. Speaking
200,
to,
I thought, yeah.
I think it's less than that. I think it's like 180. I thought it was 200 when it first happened, but I think it's like 180 grand a week. But if you're moving to somewhere like Newcastle United to play Champions League football, there's no reason why that wage cannot be negotiated down. Now, if we rumored to be, for example, if we paid the likes of Lloyd Kelly 100 to 150 grand a week, which is rumored to what we paid on a free transfer, there's no reason why we can't pay that sort of money or even close to that to Boubacar Kamara with incentives of performance and all the rest of it off the back of that. So we have to remember that negotiation of a wage can be negotiated down with a signing. It's like a player that's not going to come to us, but Vlahovic, for example, he's on like 300 grand a week at Juventus. He's not going to go anywhere else and get that money. He's just not. He's not going to get that anywhere else. So if he moves, unless he goes to Saudi, which I don't think he is, if he moves, he's going to have to negotiate that fee, that wage down. And if Boubacar Kamara is desperate to play Champions League football and wants to play Champions League football, he will negotiate that wage down to come to another club. It's just as simple as that. And I don't know if I've missed anything, Daz, in what I said.
No. That was because we had the conversation not on a show, but because he is a class player. But will Villa let him go though as well? That's because
well, he wants to leave. So it looks like he wants to play Champions League football. And to be fair, he's good enough to be playing Champions League football.
Yeah.
So I think if you want to get a Champions League level player, it's a bit like what we did with Tonali. You take advantage of a situation with AC Milan that were in, they needed the money. You can get Boubacar Kamara for a decent fee. You're laughing. And let's not forget, everything Villa get from Boubacar Kamara is pure profit because they didn't sign him for anything. They got him for free. Yeah. So they're benefiting from that. So you could probably sign him for 30, 35 million and you're laughing. But anyway.
It's worth noting as well. Well, like you said, then Daz, will Villa want to let go of him? Will Villa have to let go of him? And that's the key, because the closer that goes to that deadline, if they haven't sold the players, because it was like Billy was saying to Peter, earlier, we'll get rid of Matty Cash, or we'll get rid of all fringe players. But one, will they raise the relevant funds? And two, are clubs queuing up to sign Matty Cash? Probably not. I've just been having a conversation with Jeff G in the chat there. This is why this deadline for the next 9 days is so key, or is it 8 days? So key because
7
there'll be
tomorrow.
7, yeah,
8.
8. We'll go with 8. But this is why it's so key, because the closer that you get to that deadline, it's like us with Anthony Gordon last time. We didn't want to sell Anthony Gordon, but it got to the point where it was like, we really need to bring this money. This money's got to come in somehow. We ended up selling Anderson. We ended up selling Minter. But if Villa don't get those deals, because all these Premier League clubs, like Man United know, as do we, as do all the other clubs who are all in the league, they all know that if they get a hint of the fact that somebody's struggling with PSR, they're going to wait. Say for example, Villa want 40 mil for Martinez. Man United might go to Villa, on the 27th, we'll give you 25 million. And Villa will go, we're not selling for 25 million. And they go, okay, don't. And the longer that it goes towards that deadline, they're going to have to get desperate. And that's why we got stung so much with Odyssey's Vlachodimos. Because then, Forest were like, yeah, we'll buy Anderson for 35 million, but you're taking Vlachodimos for 20 million. And we're going, no, we don't want him. And they're like, well, we're not doing the deal then. So it's up to you. And in the end, that's why we had to do that deal, because we needed to raise those funds. And obviously we decided we wanted to keep Gordon. And that's why we ended up effectively getting 15 million for Elliot Anderson, which was deeply disappointing. But that is the PSR world that we're in, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think it was Jeff G. He said, I was thinking narrow with Premier League players. This is only related to the PSR, by the way. You might have joined us a little bit late. We're only talking about PSR related clubs in the Premier League that we can target, which is why we're talking about Aston Villa players. There are lots of other European-based players that we can be targeting. And boys, when I saw this link, I was excited. I know you boys were as well. People have already mentioned him in the chat. I'm behind on the chat, so I apologize. I'm just catching up. But this man is of interest, potentially, of Newcastle United. Xavi. It has been confirmed that he's asked for a transfer this summer. Are they even in Europe? RB Leipzig. I'm not sure they're even in Europe.
No, I don't think they are, mate.
And he is, it's accepted from that side of things that it might be the moment to move. It mentions about 70 million euros fee there. NFC blog have reported on it based on other reports coming from Germany. And this is coming from Germany, not coming from England, but from Germany, close to RB Leipzig sorts that Newcastle United are in the running for the potential signing of Xavi Simons. And Sport Witness have also talked about it. Tottenham, Newcastle, Man United and Arsenal looking at Xavi Simons. Boys, we asked ourselves, could there be a surprise signing at some point this summer? Would you want it to be Xavi Simons if that was the surprise signing? A bit like a Sandro Tonali. Daz, what are your thoughts, mate?
I'm going to immediately go to Chris here and come back to me, but because Chris is all over this one, he was getting very excited about this one. So, Chris, away you go.
Mate, I got incredible. I mean, it sounds like a broken record, don't we? But we have discussed Xavi Simons before, and it was a long, long time ago. But mate, I think he's quality. I think he's really, really quality. He's a player who can play pretty much anywhere across the front three. He's what Pete mentioned earlier about Yilmaz, he's very direct, very, very direct, and he just runs at players. I think in this Eddie Howe system that we play, I think Xavi Simons would be superb. I really, really do. The only disadvantage with Xavi Simons is, and you boys correct me if I'm wrong here, but I feel like he's more suited to being a number 10. I don't see him as a natural winger. I think he does play. Does he play off the left for Leipzig? I feel like he plays off the left for Leipzig. I could be wrong.
He's a very versatile player, so he can play across the front line. So he has played on the left because remember, he come from PSG. So I've had many conversations with Xavi Simons, but he can also play as a number 10 and in midfield as well. So he can play in midfield 3. So he can play in that position. And he is very versatile and he plays well in each position. And that's the key, is that technically very good on the board. He can bring the ball forward. His progressive passes and his final ball passes are excellent. But the thing that I like about him is that he has moments at the top end of the pitch. So 19 goal contributions this season. He's had injuries as well in this season. And he's still managed to produce 19 goal contributions. He has been a focal point for RB Leipzig. He is an elite player. There's no doubt about it.
I'm going to come in on now, Chris, because there's a comment that came up there about him not settling at a club. I just think he needs to find a home. A home and someone to stay at for a number of years. He has bounced around that PSV, PSG, and so on, but he, in that sense, he kind of reminds me about of that João Felix. But I don't rate João Felix. I rate Xavi Simons, and I think he could be a good player. First, he seems to me he would be a kind of an alternative to João Pedro. That's the kind of, if we weren't to get João Pedro, then maybe we'd consider looking at Simons. But the last international tournament he was class. He was absolutely class. I remember watching him closely then. But interesting to see how that one develops. I can't see it though. I can't see that one.
It's a special signing. It's a special signing if you can get it done. I think that's harsh. kind of linking him to João Felix.
No. I'm not
Felix,
saying he's
massively overrated. João Felix.
no. The only way the reason I'm linking him to João Felix is that bouncing around from club to club. That's the whole reference to João Felix, because I don't rate João Felix, but I rate Simmons. So that's why I was making reference to a journeyman kind of. Well, he's so young though. He's still only 22, so it's early days for him.
Yeah, that's the thing. He is young. I mean, he's at what? He's been to PSG. He's a young player. Then to Leipzig afterwards. He's not been to many clubs. Like João Felix has been to multiple clubs. Like, but he's got. For me, Xavi Simons' potential is far outweighs. And look, Lee brought him to the table many years ago when he talked about him. With regards to PSG, because that was at the point where he was just leaving and he was going to RB Leipzig at that point. But he's an elite player. He is absolutely a player that I would take. You'd find a space for him in the team because he's that good. And I believe he's actually quite suited to the Premier League. I actually think he's perfect for the Premier League. His ability on the ball, he's quick, his ability to find those final passes and create opportunities. I think him and Isak would link up so well in that forward line. And again, he's got Champions League experience, and that's exactly what we need. We need to be targeting players that have got Champions League experience, that have played at the top level, that can handle the big stage. Xavi Simons is absolutely a player that can do that. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing that one come to fruition. We've got other players in here. A few people have mentioned him tonight. One to be talked about as well is Johan Bakayoko. Johan Bakayoko has had lots of interest from many different clubs. Today, it was rumoured that Bakayoko has received an offer from an undisclosed Premier League club. Lots of reports of who that club may well be. The question is, boys, would you want it to be Newcastle United to pick him up on that right wing?
Yeah, well, I'll be quick because we spoke about this the last day. Because the rumor of the 17 million, yeah, he'd be great signing for 17 million. It would take the gamble out of it. Like I said before, that at the 35-40 million that was quoted before, it's a bit of a gamble because it could be hit and miss with the player coming from the Dutch league. But it does look quality, so 17 million is not a gamble at all. If he was absolutely crap, I think we could still sell him for 10 again, because he's so young. So yeah, we wouldn't mind if we're that club that's in the mix there.
Chris, I'll come to you with this one. Another one, Malik Fofana. Chelsea have been heavily interested in him. We talked about him before. I think Lee had mentioned him as a player at the back end of last season. At the beginning of last season as a player to look out for. ESPN have reported that Newcastle United are one of the teams chasing him. Now, he is a left winger that can play on the right-hand side, but he is very, very exciting. Belgian international already. It was always going to be him and Ryan Cherky that were going to be potentially leaving the club. But as it says on there, Malik Fofana, he's been described as an unbelievable player. I don't know how much you've seen of Malik Fofana. I'm not sure. I think we might have watched him when he played against Man United in the second leg of the Europa League. I think we'll talk about him that night as well. But do we need another left winger? Does that mean that potentially one other of our left wingers is leaving the club? I'm giving a leading question here.
Yeah, that's why I started smirking when you said it. Yeah, I mean, we may need another left winger if one of our current left wingers was to go. So certainly that is an option. Genie Esther's put there that Malik Fofana's 2-footed. I must admit, I don't know all that much about Malik Fofana. Obviously reading that article, very, very exciting. And he is a player, I've heard people talk about. And again, when you hear him linked to other big clubs, it's exciting, isn't it? And he is a great age. And the last player that we signed from Lyon wasn't half bad, was he? So that wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing. But yeah, I mean, predominantly, I would prefer a natural right winger. But as we've said countless times, boys, if the right player becomes available, regardless of position, in my opinion, I think we press the button on them. I think we go for them. Choppy says there, unless Harvey Barnes is going. This is another thing, isn't it? If Harvey Barnes was to go, or if Anthony Gordon was to go, and we replace them with someone like Malik Fofana, fantastic. Clearly, he's still only very, very young, but he's probably a player who's got a lot of potential, who can, come into this Newcastle team and, develop. The big question, I suppose, is whether or not, will he hit the ground running? Is he the finished article? He probably isn't the finished article, but he's probably a player with lots and lots of potential. And it's whether or not Newcastle are willing, to wait that 6, 12, 18, 24 months in order, for him to be up to speed, up to where he needs to be. That is up for debate. But if you're signing a top quality player and someone who can, reach that world-class ceiling, then, I'd be all for it. I'd be very excited because he certainly sounds like a player who, is very highly thought of.
And I'll stick with you this one, Chris, because obviously we talked about Harvey Barnes potentially leaving the club. Still noises around the Liverpool account regarding Anthony Gordon. This Dave account does tend to get a lot of followers and a lot of interactions with regards to the news that he puts out there. But this was an exclusive that he put out within the last 24 hours. Liverpool have maintained an open dialogue over the potential move for Anthony Gordon. There are many moving parts in this potential signing. However, if Diaz, Jota, or other attackers leave, don't be surprised if Liverpool make a move for Gordon this summer. Gordon is currently holidaying with Curtis Jones at this moment in time. There's lots of pictures on social media together. Chris, I'll come to you back to this point. Everyone's talking about Harvey Barnes being the one to leave, but could Anthony Gordon be that guy to leave to allow someone like Malik Fofana to be the next signing on that left wing?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I said to me, Liverpool mate, when we were having the conversation over Isak, I finished it by saying the player most likely to join you this summer is Anthony Gordon. It's not Alexander Isak, because I don't believe Alexander Isak joins Liverpool under any circumstances. I just don't see it. But yeah, Anthony Gordon, he's an interesting one. We've spoken in great detail about Anthony Gordon, haven't we? And I do believe, and people may think this is harsh, but I do believe he owes us this season. I really, really do. He signed a new contract. He didn't have the best of seasons last season. But I just kind of want all these rumours to be put to bed. And if he does end up staying at Newcastle, I'll be very happy about that. He is a really good player. My only concern is this doesn't go away. And, I know, obviously, I was rolling my eyes when he said he was on holiday with Curtis Jones. Obviously, he can be friends with whoever he wants. That is what it is, isn't it? But I just feel like
no Liverpool players.
No Liverpool players.
No.
Well, we already had the Trent loving last time when he was linked, because Trent was in his ear at England saying, "Oh, you'll never walk alone," or whatever it was. And now we're getting it with Curtis Jones, and obviously people are putting 2 and 2 together. But I just, I don't want to hear at the start of this season. If Anthony Gordon is wearing a Newcastle United shirt, what I don't want to hear is anyone making excuses going, "It's been a tough summer," or "His head's been turned," or "He's really unsettled." Don't want to hear that, because he needs to focus. He's a Newcastle United player who gets paid very, very well to play for Newcastle United. And if Liverpool don't come in and put the money on the table, then he needs to just get on with it. He really, really does. We've had all this circus now. It's up to him to now perform and do his job for his club. If he wants to go to Liverpool, Liverpool's got to put the money on the table. If Liverpool don't put the money on the table, then just get on with it, mate. You've just got to get on with it. I don't want to see an Anthony Gordon sulking, seemingly being off it. I still get a little bit frustrated, with the whole, he had a really bad summer with England, or, it messed with his head and stuff like that. And it's like, well, he went away with England. He didn't play football, and granted, he should have. And I think Southgate should have played him more. Don't get me wrong, but that doesn't excuse 3, 4, 5, 6 months of poor performances because he couldn't get his head right. I just don't buy into that at all. I do think it had more to do with the Liverpool stuff, over the fact that Newcastle were more than willing to sell him, and maybe he started to have a wobble. We've then given him a brand new contract. We've shown that we want him to stay. Kind of put his fears to rest. Maybe he had concerns that he wasn't doing his job properly, or maybe that we weren't that bothered over him. We've put that to bed now. He's on the big contract. His future's secured. If this Liverpool move doesn't happen, he needs to start the season strongly, and he needs to perform for Newcastle United, because we can't have another season like last season. We just can't. It needs to be better.
To pardon the pun, it was a cop out that England
it was
that England thing.
It was.
Sorry, he's not the first, and he won't be the last that expected to get more minutes and didn't in an international tournament.
No.
Like that for me is an absolute cop out. It was purely about Newcastle United and the Liverpool move, which is why his head was scrambled, and reporters have already reported on that since. So let's wait and see on that one. Daz, I'm going to come to you, unless you want to jump in on Gordon.
No, just you made a good point the last show we're on, Pete, that Gordon doesn't have a choice but to have a good season, because he's not getting to the World Cup otherwise. So he'll be having a good season no matter what.
Yeah, absolutely. And another player that will need to have a good season no matter what, with the World Cup coming up, is this man.
Yes.
We've gone through, or I say we, not necessarily we, but Newcastle fans on social media have gone through the emotions the last few days, because 1 minute we thought we were right in the mix for Newcastle United, potentially signing him. Then all of a sudden it was, Liverpool are going to sign him, so therefore it's not happening. And everyone's up in arms again, going, we're letting everyone and all of our targets go. What are we doing? And everyone's in free fall. And then it's coming back because Jacob Steinberg has mentioned that not only is he potentially prepared to see out his contract in the final year, but Newcastle is still very much in the mix for Mark Gay. So all maybe is not lost with Mark Gay. Where do you sit, Daz, on this situation with Mark Gay? Because, it has had its ups and downs over the course of the last year, even in particular this summer, it's had its ups and downs. Do you think he's going to go to Liverpool in the end? Do you think Newcastle United have got enough to entice him out of Crystal Palace to make that deal in the summer? Where do you see this, having been sort of updated in the last 24, 48 hours with what's going on with Mark Gay?
We're doing it again, aren't we? We're in this Mark Gay roller coaster. We said let's get it done at the start of the window, but we're back on it again. And I still think we're definitely in the mix here. Look, there's a bit of a triangle going here. You can also throw a Sporting Lisbon into the mix with Liverpool as well, because you've got Liverpool. I don't think he will go to Liverpool in a World Cup year, because is he going to be guaranteed his spot? I think at Newcastle he's more of a chance of being nearly guaranteed a spot, or at least he has a clearer pathway to being a starter. That's why I think we're in the mix. Or else is he going to just ride it out and enjoy his time with Palace in Europe, and then just go for a free and being able to talk to clubs come January time or whatever. But I still think we're in the mix. But and Eddie Howe is going to stay in the mix for this, because I think he really wants him. And well, as I said many times before, I'd go for Diamande, but it's not my choice. It's Eddie Howe's. And of course, Palace are linked to Diamande as a replacement if Mark Gay does go, or they're linked with them anyway, no matter what. I think watch Sammy Wackler. Usually has all the information on Mark Gay. So the info will come from there if he's on the move anywhere or any close to a move. So keep an eye. But I think it has to come a time though. Eddie has to just walk away. Like we did with Zimbabwe,
Yeah, Chris, you've got Van Dijk, Konate as a pairing. You've got Dan Burn, Fabian Shaw as a partner and a pairing. Where's he more likely to get football? If you're Mark Gay and you're deciding where to go, where is the best option for him? Take our bias out of it. Where are you going if you're in a World Cup season? You know you need to play regular football. It's already been said today. He's not signing a new contract, so he's definitely leaving in the summer. Palace are going to want to recoup for him. He might be prepared to see out his last year, but they might not be prepared because they want the money for him. Where are you going?
Yeah, it's a tough one. And I think as well, Pete, it's worth highlighting, you know, these Liverpool rumours for Mark Gay have surfaced most recently because we know historically they have shown an interest in the past, but apparently Jalo Quanta is about to make a 35 million euro move to Bayer Leverkusen. So obviously that frees up a centre-back spot. But you make a good point because the first choice centre-backs are Van Dijk and Konate, aren't they? So for me personally, I think he's got more chance of playing first team football at Newcastle because I think if he was to join Newcastle, I think Eddie would say to him, "You're going to be our first choice right centre back next to Sven Botman." I think Fabian Schär will make way for Mark Gay if he comes in, particularly if you're spending north of 40 million on him. I think that that would have to be a given. He would start the season as the right centre back. The thing is, you could argue. I mean, you look at Liverpool's centre backs. So they've got Konate, they've got Van Dijk, they've got Gomez, and then at Newcastle, obviously we've got Byrne, we've got Botman, we've got Schär. I'm not going to include Lascelles. Obviously, Lascelles is there, but he would definitely be like fifth choice if a new centre back is to come in. So you could argue maybe he's got a slightly better chance of starting at Liverpool in terms of. You know, Konate really, really struggles to stay fit. He gets injured, quite a bit. So you could argue maybe his opportunities at Liverpool might be better. But I think in terms of being able to stroll in and guarantee himself a spot, he's got a better chance at Newcastle because I think he would be able to automatically command that right centre-back position. And I think that's what he would do. Or if Newcastle ends up going to a back three, because I still wouldn't rule that out. Because it's going to be incredibly harsh and incredibly difficult for Eddie to drop Dan Burn. I think he's going to really struggle to do that because Dan Burn's been absolutely fantastic last season. So it could be that we move into a back three and then Mark Gay sits on the right side of that back three, or the new centre back sits on the right side of that back three, particularly when you've got two such attacking wing backs that we have in Tino Livramento and Lewis Hall. A back three kind of makes sense. And also it mitigates the problem of constantly using the same midfield three all the time in Joe Linton, Sandro and Bruno. If you drop to a two, you're then only using two of those three. And then it negates the need to bring in, another central midfielder if, for example, Sean Longstaff leaves. Because if you've only got two positions up for grabs, it makes it a little bit easier. But yeah, it's a great question. But I don't know. I think he get more first team football at Newcastle, but there will be opportunities for him at Liverpool, given that Konate struggles to stay fit.
Rudy Galati is just reporting in the last 30 minutes about Mark Gay. I've not had a chance to put the picture up, so I apologize for that. But it's he said Crystal Palace rate Gay higher, but with only 1 year left on his contract, they're looking at around 45 million, including add-ons, and that should be enough to get the deal done. So we're probably looking around a 50 million pound deal. Would you be wanting to deal with Mark Gay at around 50 million, in your opinions, boys? Daz, I'll come to you first.
Newcastle submit 30 million offer, rejected, and it goes. The cycle continues. Look at this stage, fucking wood, just get done. No, go 40. Go 40.
Yeah, I think. I think go 40, 45. I still think it's too expensive because I value, even with 3 or 4 years left on his deal, I value Mark Gay probably in the range of around 50, 55 million. So realistically, I would pay 40 to 45 million. That's what I'd pay for him, but it might not be enough to get him out of Palace. But Palace will be panicking a little bit. One thing I will caveat this by saying is, I don't know whether Crystal Palace are struggling in PSR terms. So whether or not the deal gets done before the 1st of July, I don't know. It could be that we wait until afterwards.
possibly. We don't know the situation apparently, but
No.
they possibly could be okay. But yeah, I've just managed to get that picture up. That's what Rudy Galletti said in the last 35 minutes. He's done a piece on Team Talk with regards to that. So it's an interesting one. It's an interesting one. An even more interesting one is there's a couple of things that have popped up in the last couple of hours that I wasn't planning on talking about. But interestingly, as we're on centre backs, we'll have this conversation because Daz put it in our private chat, but I've also just seen it on socials as well. There has been some updates with regards to this man, Giorgio Scalvini of Atlanta. Apparently, Newcastle United are interested in the 21-year-old Italian international. Atlanta do not want to sell, but this man, who is a super talented centre-back, he is getting a lot of interest. And Matteo Moretto, who we've talked about, has reported a number of things, Italian-based, has not only said that Newcastle are interested in him, but Newcastle are evaluating whether to submit an offer at this point in time. So another centre-back option, boys, to have a look at. Boys, what do you think of this one? He's a player that we've talked about before. He is a super talented centre-back. He can play across the back line. He is right-footed, which is what every Newcastle fan is looking for. Is he right-footed? Is he left-footed? What can he do? He can play both with both feet, but he is predominantly right-footed. Boys, what are your thoughts on Giorgio Scalvini as a potential option for Newcastle United?
Cheers, Fen, for the DM on the link that's been going on. I know some people had some comments in the chat as well. I was wondering where that was coming from. Yeah, he's a quality player. We looked at him before, again, back at the must have been the European Championships. We're looking at him. Did he have a lot of injuries though? I think there was something about injuries.
He had a cruise ship. He had a cruise ship. He came back from it around November, December time, similar time to Sven Botman. He came back. I believe it was a cruise ship. Anyway, I'll double check. But it was a long-term serious injury. And he has been back since. So, yeah.
Of course, Atalanta are in the they're in the Champions League. But this lad's only 21. Quality player. If we get Football Manager favorite as well, of course. But one to keep an eye on. Let's see. This is what I mean. I think we're going to get a start because at the moment our Premier League targets haven't come in, but now Europe is opening up as we get closer to July. We're going to get lots of links and lots of good players all over the place. But yeah, thumbs up for me.
Chris, your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I agree with Evan Kempf, and he says Scalvini is clear of Gahey. I think Scalvini would be fantastic. The fact that Atalanta don't want to sell him, I think that could be problematic. I don't know, but this is the thing. As soon as you start going into Europe, you're getting much better value, aren't you? If we were to approach Atalanta with 40-45 million, pounds, I think that's a huge offer for Atalanta, isn't it? And don't forget, boys, a certain Ben Godfrey will be going back to Atalanta after spending his loan period at Ipswich. So
they can let him go.
Yeah, this is it, mate. It could be Ben Godfrey could be benefiting us in his own way.
Who would have thought it?
Who would have thought? Yeah, exactly. But no.
Hold on a second. How the hell are we talking about Ben Godfrey?
I don't know. I'm waiting for Chris to say that Andy Carroll is available and free as well. That day is coming.
Mate, I'm just waiting. I'm waiting. Doing great things at Bordeaux. Great things.
Outros there. If we talk about Andy Carroll, let's go outros. Come on. Let's back up and go home. But no, in all seriousness, Scalvini is a very, very exciting potential. Like, it's only a link that's just come out tonight, so we don't know too much about it. Let's see how that one develops. But again, boys, is he one of the secret targets that Newcastle United are looking at in Europe? Could well be. We don't know. And this is the great thing about it. We're hearing noises from other kind of parts. Remember, the kind of the Italian side of things were the ones that were first coming out about Sandro Tonali, which then got confirmed by the Newcastle reports. You had Spain in La Liga reporting on Isaac first before then Newcastle reporters confirmed it. Like, we don't know what's going on. We might not know until it's already a done deal. So let's wait and see. But he is absolutely an exciting prospect if we can get someone like Giorgio Scalvini through the door. He's injury free now. He's in a position where he's played a bit of football at the back end of the season. Italian international, friend of Sandro Tonali.
Could be.
Bring him home.
Who knows?
Could be.
Who knows? Could that encourage Sandro Tonali to sign that contract extension this summer, which I think will be coming his way? Just my opinion. No facts on that. Let's wait and see.
Sandro Tonali owes us. I think he owes us a new contract. I think he does. He's spoken openly, hasn't he, about how fantastic the fans and the club have been with him during that tough period that he had. And I think Newcastle will want to secure him on a longer term deal, so it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. And I think as well, he deserves a new contract and a salary increase based on what he did for us last season, because he was absolutely outstanding. So it works for both. But yeah, Scalvini, Pete, just to wrap up on that. What did you mention before? What was it you said? You said something about oh no, I can't remember. It was something to do with going for players that are like outside the box, like players that we've not necessarily been linked with, but we know that there is an interest. Yeah.
Absolutely. Like we're starting to hear new names coming. Malik Fofana, for example, Scalvini tonight. There are others.
Yeah.
You know, there's Colin Moani we've not even touched on. There's a couple of others that are in that conversation that we can say for another night, another show. This is the thing. I do think there'll be a couple of surprise targets in there, and we should be excited by that. And this is why we talk about all things transfers and Newcastle United, because it always throws up surprises, things that you don't necessarily expect. Anything from the chat, Daz, before we wrap?
No, they've been very quiet. Nothing all night. Okay, let me see.
I'm mindful we want to finish before 2 hours.
Yes, we do. We have to finish for 2 hours.
Daz, just while you're looking for that question, that's what you said as well, Pete, which I picked up on. You mentioned at the very start of your question about, is it significant that we're being linked with a player from a foreign source? So not someone from like English media. And I think in recent times that has been it's proved to have been the case, hasn't it? It tends to get noisier from the country where the player's from, or where the country where the player plays his football, and then gradually it filters over, doesn't it? We saw that exact thing happen with Sandro Tonali. We were all still bruised over the fact we weren't getting Barella. And then all of a sudden, all the Italian media were like, Newcastle are getting Tonali. And we were thinking, nah, surely not. And then all the English media started reporting on it, and we were going, wow, this could actually be happening. So hopefully
is right. I know I did put a poll in as well. I must get the results of that poll through. But for the first comment our question I want to bring up, two people have put in. Dorchmark has put in about Kun from Celtic, where it seems to be linked to him, and Tom Dixon as well has the same link. Any thoughts on that one, lads?
I've got it here. Didn't bring it up. Nicholas Kun reported in the Chronicle potentially a £15 million deal for him. We've been linked with him quite a few times, to be fair. What are your thoughts on that? I've got some opinions on that, but what are your thoughts on it, boys?
I don't know. I looked at him a bit when we were linked with him before, but come from the Scottish League doesn't fill me with optimism. I know he's done well in the Champions League as well. Depends on. To be honest with you, I haven't watched him that closely, so I'd look elsewhere, but I haven't looked at him in great detail. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, similar to you, I don't know all that much about him. I have to admit, I don't watch Celtic regularly. I have to be honest. So the fact that he's from the SPL does worry me a little bit, because it is a far poorer quality of football than the Premier League. Looking at it more positively, Virgil van Dijk was spotted, wasn't he, when he was playing for Celtic in the SPL, and they all said that he would comfortably be able to make the step up into the Premier League, which he subsequently did. Southampton took the risk on him, and that paid off for them, because then they got a huge fee off Liverpool for him. But I suppose really, if you talk, it goes back to what Dad said earlier. Not talking about this player, but somebody else. If you can acquire him for something like 15 million, it's quite low risk, because even if it doesn't work out, you're going to be able to get a big chunk of that money back, even if it doesn't pan out. Because if you're only paying 15 million for him, let's say he doesn't quite make the grade, or he's not quite where he needs to be, in a couple of seasons' time, you'd easily get 10, 12 million for him, if not recoup your money or maybe make a bit of profit on him. Let's not forget, boys, we do need a top class right winger, so that's the only risk. But we also need some squad fillers as well. He could be a little bit. Who was I referring to before? Yeah, could be a little bit like a Yilmaz, someone who can come in and really, fill a place within the squad. So yeah, I mean, for 15 million, I would probably take the risk on him, probably. But would I want him first choice right wing? Don't know.
And that's what he'd need there, Chris. That's the problem, is that if you're signing him, he's going to be your first choice. I've only watched him in one game, and I think it was just coming off a show that we did that night when Celtic played away at Bayern Munich, and he played well that night, and he scored. And I was like surprised by it, because I've never seen him play before. I thought, oh, actually, he looks a decent player. I haven't watched him anywhere else. I've only got that one sample size to go off, so I don't really know. I think he's got like 26 goal contributions, but that in Scotland doesn't really mean anything. Not for me. Not for me.
Boys, we can get one more question in before we hit the 2 hour mark. So I want to also say that the poll is deadlocked. It's pretty much 50-50 on whether we'll make a signing before the end of June. So in the next 7-8 days. So that is interesting. The opinions of the chatters, and 273 voted on that. Okay, I want to get your thoughts really, really quickly. Sorry, Chris. What time?
What happened to the 1%? Anyway,
don't mind about that. Don't mind about that. 50-50. Rooney. I saw talks of Rooney being linked to Barcelona, and that to add to the 10 right wingers they have already makes no sense.
Squad hoarding. That's what Barcelona will do. They'll squad hoard him and end up selling off Torres or whatever to play him in, or end up selling him for big money. Poor career move if he goes to Barcelona, in my opinion. Yeah. Wherever he goes, he needs to play football. That's the key. He's still young. He needs to play and develop. That's all I'll say on that. And
he's not going to play ahead of Lamine Yamal, is he? Let's be honest.
No one is. But that's boys. We're going to wrap the show there, because we will run out of time otherwise. Just smash the like on this show, but also follow David's line as well, and put a nomination in for us and the Football Content Awards. If you get a chance, just populate the forum there, and you never know, we might get nominated. The more encouragement, the better. So thanks for that. That's it. We're not even going to play out with an outro, because we'll run out of time. Otherwise, we have a reason for that. But we will be back later during the week, hopefully with the signing. Good night, everyone. See you in the next one.
Well,
we can close the show this time. Yes.
Hey.